Cuyahoga County Public Safety and Justice Affairs Committee. This March 31st, the year is going quickly. And could I have a roll call, please?
Calling the roll, Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Greenspan. Mr. Greenspan is absent. Mr. Germano.
Here.
Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison is absent. Ms. Conwell.
Here.
There is a quorum. Also like the record to reflect that council members Miller and Simon are in attendance.
Welcome again, as always, Mr. Miller and Ms. Simon. Any public comment related to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
In our packet, we have the minutes of February 17th. If they're in order, I'll accept the motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. Resolution 2015-0050.
Resolution number 2015-0050, a resolution making a Cuyahoga County 911 Consolidation Shared Services Fund Award to City of Beechwood on behalf of Eastside Departments Group Enforcement, the amount not to exceed $1,968,000 for public safety answering point consolidation support for the period 2/1/2015 through 1/31/2016, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with said award in this resolution, and declaring the necessity of this resolution become immediately effective.
Ms. Gurney. Welcome.
Cuyahoga County Public Safety. I think we're going to start with the director here from Public Safety.
Good morning, I'm George Taylor, Director of Public Safety. And basically what this is funding is consolidation of 4 PSAPs into the Beechwood Communications Center. And the cities included are Beechwood, Pepper Pike, South Euclid, Cleveland Heights, University Heights, and Shaker Heights. The money will pay for 10 positions of dispatchers with room to expand for 5 additional dispatchers. And the call volume in that area for wireless and landline calls are approximately 43,000 in 2013, and it serves approximately 10% of the Cuyahoga County population. And as was stated before, the county is providing $1.9 million to get this service up and going to consolidate the PSAPs.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Questions from Mr. Taylor? Mr. Chair. Mr. Miller?
Once this consolidation is complete, what does this bring us to in terms of the number of PSAPs in Cuyahoga County?
I'm going to let Brandy answer that. She's more up to date on that than myself.
Sure, Councilman, as of today, we are at 38 PSAPs in Cuyahoga County. If you recall, when we first started on the plan, we were at 48. When the plan was actually released in March of 13, we were down to 45. So as of today, we're at 38. Tomorrow, we will be at 37 with Euclid consolidating. There are some additional consolidations that are expected to happen between now and the time this would happen. But by the end of this year, including this, and then also also Garfield and Maple Heights, we'd be at 31.
Okay, and could you send me a list of the 31?
Yes, sir.
And for each one, that includes multiple communities for that one list, what communities that it includes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My second question is, how much money have we allocated so far this year for these consolidations? We have this one for 1.968 million. And then I think we've done a couple more. Can you tell me what those are?
Sure, sir, I can tell you to date, we've allocated approximately, let me get the exact number for you, $5,057,457 and that has been since the inception of this fund in 2013. For this year, if we move forward with today's request, which again would be for the 1.968 million, And then we also funded the Parma request, which was approximately $974,000. And those two both came out of 15.
And the 5,057,000, does that include this request?
Let me confirm that. Yes, it would include that request, sir.
So including this request, the total is 5,057,000.
It was $5 million. I apologize, let me confirm, I'm just following this meeting, if that is inclusive of this 2 million or not. I don't have that information with me, I apologize.
Okay. And are there any more allocations out of this fund anticipated for 2015?
We have no, as of right now, we do not have any request or any applications. There was an application that was denied, and there was
For Chagrin
discussion.
Falls?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. We had approved them for $330,000 initially. They came back with a second request that was in fact denied. But outside of that, no, we have no additional applications on the table right now.
Okay, well, we're chugging along and grinding it out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Germano.
Can you tell me about how much is left in the fund at this point?
Sure. If in fact we fund today's request, there would be $0 left in the fund.
So
And
this-
then I'm sorry, sir, go ahead.
So this is it, this cleans it.
That's correct. But again, that would be for this year. We had discussed allocating anywhere from somewhere around $2 million every year. And so that would kind of take up this year. And so we would I'd look to this committee to decide if we want to still move forward with this initiative then to fund for 2016.
Thank you.
I think Mr. Miller and Mr. Germana are heading towards the concern that I believe the committee's had all along with the plan, which was a good plan, but what do we do when we get down to the final five? Which I've all along thought we should have identified at the beginning. We're giving money right now, substantial amounts of money to not potentially, definitely PSAPs that will not be funded, that will not make the final five, which pits us in a strange situation, I think, in that we're, I think, wasting dollars. And I've never understood that, but here we are stuck with that, and that's the challenge, I believe, this year as we move forward with further funding. We're going to have to attach that in some way to what is considered the final five, and there have been some thoughts on how to identify the final five as we move forward. And I think once we do identify the final five, that all of these PSAPs will start falling into place. Those, especially with the Emergency Operations Center, what are we, about 18, 19 months out? Once that's built, I think that's going to be the domino effect as far as moving forward with the final five. So we have some difficulties, I think, in deciding how to do that. Certainly, I believe it should be independent, not in-house by an expert. Again, we'll have further discussions on that, but it's going to be difficult because five, how do you balance that in the county with Cleveland being one, Emergency Operations Center being two, and then you have, in essence, four sides of town. You have east, west, southwest, southeast, so some difficulties we'll have to get through. But we are where we are. We've pretty much proved this as we have gone forward. We will have those further discussions throughout this year. Hopefully we can lock down Mr. Taylor. I think that'll be your big challenge this year on what we're going to do, along with Ms. Carney. And I think the sooner the better, because I was out in Chagrin Valley, and they do have a reconsideration on the table. And if that's granted after June, which we talked about, we'll have hard facts, hard data in which to substantiate going forward who is receiving calls, how many they're receiving, and hopefully in a way how well they're doing. I anticipate everybody will be doing well, but that remains to be seen. As far as 0050, are there any further concerns? Mr. Germana?
Mr. Chairman, this is for radio equipment, correct? So that,
This is for this is
Some of
for,
it includes radio consoles that they will use at the dispatcher positions. And so inclusive within the 1.968, a portion of it is for radio equipment for them.
and, well, what's the breakdown? How much is for construction, and do you have that?
Approximately, it's $50,000 for computers, for their computers and CAD. $650,000 for the radio needs that they have, again, the councils. $160,000 for furniture, the dispatch furniture and chairs. Build out is costing $500,000, and so that's construction in their current facility. And then servers and software, $558,000. And fire station alerting, $250,000. Now, that total adds up to $2,168,000, but we did get a commitment from these cities that $200,000 they would be putting forward as match money for this.
So there's a considerable amount of equipment that if this is not one of the five, that equipment would be transferable? Or they would keep it and they may not be part of the five?
that's the struggle that we're going to face, and that, quite honestly, and I've been saying this, especially when Parma came out of nowhere. I mean, we gave them, what, $1 million? I mean, that could be $1 million down the toilet. And just picking Parma out because they came in last year late. There's gonna be a substantial amount of money placed in PSAPs that are gonna be wasted, in my opinion. Wasted money. We should have picked the five going forward. We would have known what we had. But we're where we're at. We're where we're at. This was an incentive to get people going. I guess I shouldn't say it's wasted, but it's not going to be beneficial to the whole. And quite honestly, I think we're encouraging everybody to stay independent until we pick the five.
One of the discussions.
And they're not losing money. They're charging for their services. So this isn't out of the goodness of everyone's heart. Beechwood, Strongsville, the Valley, everybody is in this to make a dollar, and I get it. But on the back end, when we're picking five, and we have to pick the five, and we've got 8 or 9 hanging fire out there, everybody's gonna think they're one of the five. And I think the struggle is politically going forward, being honest. And I think the way this has been set up from the beginning has set us up for this clash. And there's gonna be 3 or 4, maybe only 2, that are gonna be out in the cold. And that's just the way it's gonna be. I mean, we're not gonna have a choice here. So right now, everybody thinks they're one of the five, and I wouldn't encourage anybody to believe that. No one, other than Cleveland and the EOC. Those are set. So we're gonna have everybody hopefully bidding, and the best bidders are gonna win.
One of the discussions we've had recently is that we want to establish some sort of plan for this in conjunction with the executive and the council, so that we have a roadmap for moving ahead that makes sense for everyone. It's going to take us a little while to get that plan together, but that's my hope, that we can come up with a plan that at least is logical. It may not make everybody happy, but at least there's some logic involved in it, and we can minimize the funds that have already been spent and not let them just go totally to the wayside.
Well, I can assure you, Mr. Taylor, that the funds we've already spent stop here with the reconsideration of the Valley on the table. Until we decide, and through this committee and with your help, on where we go from here, again, going back almost 2 years, my concern is that we were incentivizing independence, not a conglomerate of 5, but everybody to be independent. And we have big players out there on the west, like Westlake, Rock River, and that entire group that hasn't even contacted us yet. And, you know, I anticipate in the end that there's gonna be a want to be one of those 5 from the west. And how do we do it? So we've got to come up with a formula. We've got to figure this thing out, and we have to do it as if this were a business schematic as opposed to a political pick. Again, we're down to 2 definites, and everybody else is going to be out there, right? You know, the best bid, I think, should win it, but, you know, that's just my opinion. That's why I said this year's going to be an interesting year as far as where we're going to go with these final 5. I really had hoped we could have done that at the beginning, but the thought was that we had to prime the pump the way that this was set up. It's moved. We've started consolidations, but we're running directly into that wall. And there are going to be, and I'm telling everybody right now, I told the Valley and I told Strongsville, I said, there's a very good chance you're all going to be very unhappy. Because once we figure out the 5 and dedicate the funds, I don't know how anybody stays independent unless you're financially in a position to do it. Or if you have such a business model that it makes sense. But I think when the EOC comes in, and it's going to blow everybody's model out of the water. And there's going to be movement within the PSAPs now to the EOC. I think people are going to be very surprised. And I have yet to be, I hope I'm wrong, but I have yet to be wrong on this. And I saw this coming, and I'm not happy about it. And here we are. So we'll get through it. We'll make it as fair as possible. I think that's our charge, to make sure that we're as fair as possible across the board, and that the best bids on the final 3 of the 5 are where we go, and they make most sense for the county going forward.
Mr.
But
Chairman?
we have some work to do.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Miller.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to start out by saying that in principle I agree with you, and that it would have been best if we could have sat around in our offices and determine where the 5 are going to be and plan from in that direction from the start. I'm also not sure, as a matter of practice, whether that was realistic, and that we may need to have had more than 5 operating out there in the field, and have some opportunity to see which operations are really working, and have some real world experiential knowledge on which to base the final selection of the 5. And if that's the case, I'm offering the suggestion that maybe not all of the money was totally wasted. That we can gain some benefit out of this. I do think that we funded enough locations that I think it would not make any sense to fund any more until we know what the 5 are going to be, and can be moving toward incorporating everybody into one of the 5. You know, so I think from this point forward, we should be thinking in that direction. But hopefully, having these early adopters out there in the field, doing consolidations and testing it out in practice will prove to be of some value.
Mr. Germano?
You know, my comment on this is kind of consistently been, not all counties are created equal, and where they come up with 5 is kind of ridiculous. It should have been based, the decision on how many PSAPs should have been based on how many communities, what the population, how many phones there are. And you know, perhaps the urban counties need to get together and say that, you know, to limit Cuyahoga County, Franklin County, or Hamilton County to 5 when you have these other counties that have a fourth of the population. It should, I just can't see how they made that call. I think limiting it to 5 is a bad call. It should be based on what's realistic, how many cities, townships, whatever, in different police departments. And until there's collaboration amongst these cities, you know, doing that to Cuyahoga County, I object to the 5 number. I think it's wrong.
Well, to Mr. Miller's point, we didn't know what we had, so we had to go with something, and this is what we had. The concern I had was the getting down to 5, and quite honestly, and just take Parma as an example, they went out and borrowed $2 million, $2.5 million. Now, if they're not one of the 5, that city's really not in a good spot. And other cities are doing the same thing. And I've told the mayors and the leaders of those communities, don't go out and borrow money, anticipating you're gonna be one of the final 5. And that's what we have. That's what we have. And it's, so there's gonna be losers and big losers in this. And the final 5, quite honestly, I thought we could get down to 2. The 5 was just kind of priming the pump. We're the outlier, Cuyahoga County. It's ridiculous that these local communities had their own dispatch. I mean, just ridiculous. And the argument was from the leadership on the police and fire, like they wanted to stay with their own systems, and I get it. But that's not thinking of modern times here. We're so far behind the 8 ball up here, it's ridiculous. The state looks at us as backwater. And I think Mr. Taylor would substantiate that, you know, having over 40 PSAPs in a county, regardless of the amount of people that we have here, is just on the outside of the norm. So we're getting to where we need to get to, but my concern is that there were false hopes put out there. And we have people borrowing real money on real budgets, and there's gonna be real problems trying to explain that to your taxpayers when you're not one of the 5. And that's gonna happen to somebody, more than one. And those are gonna be difficult for whoever's district that's in, and you know, could happen to Mr. Germana, could happen to me, could happen to Ms. Simon, could happen to Mr. Miller, it could happen to, some of us are gonna have to go back and explain it. And that was the concern that I had. The political concern is one thing, but the real concern on borrowing dollars that are gonna basically go to nowhere, because they're not gonna be able to fill those PSAPs when the EOC opens up and everybody scrambles to get there. And they're gonna, because it's gonna be the best, the brightest, and the shiniest thing out there, and everybody's gonna wanna be part of it. That's my guess. But we didn't know, Mr. Miller, like you know, we didn't know. We didn't know what we had. We knew the challenges, and now the challenge is here, and we have to go out and meet it. And I think this year we have to do that. We'll do the best we can and be as fair as possible across the board. And that's not picking on Parma, Strongsville, Beechwood, anybody, but there's gonna be a competition, and it's gonna be a real competition. And I think we need to get the best people on board to make those decisions, not politicians, professionals. And I think that's the best way to go. So anyhow, is there any other concern regarding?
Just forgot
Yes,
what
ma'am.
date
Yes, ma'am.
we need to be at the 5 PSAPs.
That has yet to be really determined. And that's dealing with Columbus, but by the time we get to 5, and I'm guessing we're gonna be looking at a couple of years out here. I don't see this happening in 1 or 2 years. I see this as probably at best, maybe a 5-year plan. So we would have time to consolidate, everybody could take a look around as to where they want to be, or if they want to be there. We're gonna have independents, we're gonna have people, Lakewood seemingly wants to stay independent. We may have the entire west side staying independent, we might have Solon staying independent, and they can do that, that's their call. But financially, it's gonna be a difficult thing unless you have substantial dollars in the bank. If you're a city, if you're a suburban city, it's gonna be a very difficult thing to do in today's dollars as far as available dollars in your city budgets. And our mission was to alleviate the concern financially, and I think this does it. But in the process of doing that, there's gonna be some cities that have made financial decisions that will not be beneficial to their populace.
When we get to the budget, at the end of this year, will there be more money in this fund?
That'll be a decision we'll have to make, and I would recommend right now that if you build it, they will come kind of thought is going on here. I think if you build it and they fund it, that's where they'll be going. So I think that's why it's important to get to the 5 and dedicate those funds as best can be directed to the 5 finalists. So everybody knows where the money's going.
Okay.
But I think we as the county started this. I think this has been a good project. I think the movement's been good. We can't argue with the success of the movement. But we are at a loggerhead as far as how do we get to that finish line and what does it look like? And I think if we give everybody a couple of years to understand what it's gonna look like, that better decisions will be made in these communities for what's best for those communities.
So technically, going back to what you said, there's 5 PSAPs, but for sure, Cleveland and the emergency, so it's really 1 out of 3.
In reality, there's only 3 available.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter where they're at, as we have learned. So physical presence doesn't matter. I'm gonna have, in 2 weeks, I'm gonna have Mr. Mills brought in. Maybe we should attach regional jails to the process of deciding the final 3 in the suburbs. I don't know if that's a reality, Ms. Carney.
I can just say that in many consolidations discussion I've had, and particularly the ones who have stopped or have slowed down, many of them have been because of the jail issue, and it's, what we've said before, the cart and the horse. You have all these jails, but the 911 consolidation plan, same with dispatch consolidation plan, and so, as you said, Director Mills will be able to work on that, and maybe we can work in unison, and I think that will help alleviate some of those concerns, because what happens is they can consolidate their dispatch services, but those personnel that they would be able to save on, that was doing multiple duties, they still have to hire that person to stay at that dispatch center now to do the jail duties. And so they don't really recoup or see those savings that they would otherwise for a shared services fund, or for doing shared services. So I think that might be a plan moving forward to look at both jails and dispatch consolidation together.
And that's where we would rely on our experts to direct us lay people as far as that goes. But it's, as you can see, there's many layers and many moving parts here. And I think ultimately, in the end, this is gonna be great, but getting to the end is gonna be very painful. Ms. Simon?
I have a quick question about the jail issue, the jail problem. Is that really true that there won't be any savings if a city, it's just a question of how much savings to consolidate?
Agreed.
How
much savings? There
Yeah.
absolutely are savings, but so many of them they find in the personnel, and when you go back to the personnel, those are the only costs they're looking at, but
So they're gonna
absolutely
need
there-
less personnel just to oversee the jail, correct?
They would
Or-
still, a lot of them who have a jail still need someone 24/7 that's able to book and do some of those.
What about transport anywhere? Do they have a transport issue or just sitting there and,
I can just I can't really speak to the transport, unfortunately, I haven't been involved in the jail discussion, but specifically, I do know that they say that person that they would usually be able to save if they consolidate, now they have to backfill at their location because they still have a jail. But you're right, there are other savings, absolutely, Councilwoman.
Mr. Miller?
Mr. Chairman, Director, do we have any consolidated PSAPs that have been built and are already up and running? And if so, what has been the experience in terms of effectiveness and savings?
I really don't know the answer to that question. I know that there are some,
Ms. Carney?
I can say Chagrin Valley Dispatch is one of the consolidated centers that's up and moving, as well as just as of March 17th, Bedford and Bedford Heights consolidated. 2 more cities in a few months will be moving into that center, so that will be a newly built consolidated center. I can't really speak to savings right now, but after a few months and once we do get some statistics, I'd be happy to provide that to this committee.
So far, there's really not any consolidated operations that have been up and running for a significant length of time at this point.
Prior to this plan, sir, Chagrin Valley was operating consolidated. They had multiple cities that they were. But outside of us initiating this plan, Strongsville last year did in fact add in North Royalton, so 1 city. But even that wasn't until this plan was put into effect. So in the last couple of years, they're just now starting, sir.
And they just added Olmsted Falls.
And Berea. That is true. And
And
Berea
then the
also.
township went with CCOMs.
Yeah, we are dispatching now for CCOM. So again, since this plan, they're slowly starting to happen, but the only one that had been done prior to that was Chagrin Valley.
We have movement, and we'll have hard data starting in June.
We have, starting in June, all of the dispatch centers within Cuyahoga County will be on the emergency call work system that we will be able to provide data and analytics. There's a management information system specific to the 911 call volume that we'll be able to extract from that new equipment.
Anything further? Okay. Well, unless there's an objection, what we'll do is we'll keep this in committee for another reading in 2 weeks.
Sure, I'm not sure
Is
that Beechwood is able to come back in 2 weeks, so I don't know if you want to give them an opportunity to just say a few words, sir, if that's okay? Councilman?
Do you have, sure,
Thank you, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, no.
Hi, my name's Dan Granum with City of Beechwood Police Department. I want to thank Brandy for throwing me up here. I can certainly answer any questions, but I did, if I may, respond to some comments that were made. I've listened intently. I've been in law enforcement for about 30 years. I've been a policeman for a little bit more than 23 years. I handle a lot of the IT needs for the City of Beechwood, centered around the police department, fire department, and dispatch center. I would just caution you guys to tread lightly on this issue. And some of the stuff that I'm hearing here, we get different feedback from one entity at the county than we do from another entity at the county.
Wait, why not be specific?
Well, you are correct that I think that some agencies were led to believe that they would be one of the 5. There were maps that were drawn up, some suggestions that were made, and what have you. We were encouraged to consolidate, which we've done. We've done what the county has asked us to do to consolidate the dispatch center and the operations. But you also have to keep in mind, and Mr. Germano hit this point home, with the county our size, your PSAPs, even at 5, are going to be very large. The problem with large PSAPs is, what do you do for a backup PSAP? If one of those PSAPs go down, who's the backup to that? And now you're affecting a very large operation. So you have to keep that in mind. Obviously, it can be done, and it doesn't have to be in one location or another. But those are some of the considerations. The level of service. What kind of level of service are you providing? Right now, the City of Beechwood provides a tremendous amount of services to its residents and the residents of Pepper Pike, who we also dispatch for at this point. We do things that no other agency in the Cuyahoga County is doing, streaming video from the police cars so the dispatchers can watch the police officers, and other levels of safety and service that we provide to the officers out there. The time to consolidate, it's going to take some time to consolidate these dispatch centers. You can't close down one and then the next day move in another one. I've been involved heavily with the consolidations that occurred at Chagrin Valley. They were very fortunate that the number of those agencies were already consolidated. So they've had some consolidations occur in addition to what they've had. And then their most recent one that they're working on right now, which should be up in a couple days, I think tomorrow's their date, the city of Euclid. It takes time. It takes a lot of time and planning in order to do those. We've spent the last year and a half at least preparing everything that the county's asked us to prepare with our plan for our consolidation. So at this point in time, we have Beechwood and Pepper Pike, we're all under one umbrella now, but South Euclid, Shaker Heights, Cleveland Heights, University Heights, but we've also had interest from other communities too. They're waiting to see us get our center built, and I think a lot of what you're speaking of. So this money will not go to waste. We will operate a very state-of-the-art dispatch center. It will not be wasted money, and we will provide the best service we can to all of the agencies that consolidate underneath us. We've done extensive planning. We've crunched the numbers numerous times to make sure that we have enough dispatchers to be able to provide the services that the safety forces need out of the dispatch center. So this is very important to us, not only as police and fire side, the residents that we serve, and obviously everybody else in the county.
And I understand what you're saying, but, you know, and I'm not picking on you, but everything you said, I've heard from everybody else. And my point is there's gonna be 3 or 4 of everybody else that's gonna be told, no, we're going a different direction. And here's why. And our position is get to the 5 and have a reasonable here's why and a fair and difficult decision. But as you can see, the position we're in. 2 years ago, nobody was talking about this other than the Valley or Bedford. Nobody. Everybody fought us. Everybody. There wasn't a police chief. I can't pick a police chief outside of the Bedford gang that was for this. Even my very own police chief, Charlie Goss in Strongsville, came to a meeting and tried to submarine my process of trying to move this along. Now Charlie's out in Strongsville, retired, and on the management side, and he's pro. We have interesting discussions regarding that. But it was a difficult sell to get here. And now we're here. And now it's going to be a difficult sell to get down to the 5. And I don't know who told you you'd be one of the 5. I've seen plans where you're one of the 5. But my concern is this, is that it has to be fair and equitable throughout for everybody. And I want the 5 best. We're stuck with Cleveland because of their size. And quite honestly, how they're pretty good. Ask them. And then we're going to have the EOC, which is really going to be the heart of what we are, the backups beneath Cleveland. They're going to be redundant to one another. We're certainly going to need another backup. I agree with you. I don't know how we're going to get there. And that's the discussion that we're going to have. So don't take it personal. Don't take us as, and I did say, you know, we're wasting money. I don't think it's wasting money, but it's not money going to the final 5. And from here on out, if it's not money going to the final 5, it is wasted money. It is money that shouldn't be going out. And we've got to make that determination now. And how we get there is going to be probably a year-long discussion as to how we can fairly get there. So I hear what you're saying. I've heard it from everybody else. I was out in the Valley last week, and I heard the very same thing. But I find it interesting, 2 years later, everybody fought us, and now they're scrambling to get to the final 5. And I knew it was going to happen. And I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Miller.
First of all, I'd like to rephrase what you just said, that we are privileged and have the opportunity to engage Cleveland as one of the final 5 PSAPs.
They are.
Yes.
They're definitely.
Yes. And my question is whether you're seriously giving thought to not funding this this program until we make a decision on the final 5. I was a little bit surprised that you're talking about holding this over and not moving it forward to second reading.
Second reading.
What?
Second reading.
Are we gonna move it to second reading?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood you then.
No, second, unless there's, overriding concern financially, that you need this sooner than later. And I've heard that from everybody before too.
We can wait. We've been waiting for some time now. So if we're going to get the money, we can wait. If we're not, we need to make other arrangements. We do have some issues with equipment and things like that
Right.
for our PSAP that we've been holding off
Right.
with the intent of doing this project.
Right, if it would put you in a hardship, like we had Parma come in December and tried moving it through quickly. And their whole purpose was they were borrowing money, which I'm like, ugh, you know. So we moved it, we allowed that to go forward because of the financial concerns. If you have any concerns like that, I would have no problem moving it forward, but if you can wait, I would prefer to, you know, take at least another reading on this, because we are being watched.
Excuse me, sir. The point of contact for this application was Chief Nieder from South Euclid. I did in fact reach out to him and ask, and he said he'd be fine with it going through the 2 readings that's expected for it, and he said it did not need an extension, or it would not need an.
Right, that's my
Commission.
understanding.
We'll meet in 2 weeks.
Okay.
For the second reading. And then we'll move that, I would anticipate, out of committee to council for the next meeting. So within this month, it will be approved.
Okay,
If
perfect.
if that helps you out.
Just so we have a timeline of where we're going.
Within this month, April, within April, we'll have it to full council.
Excellent, thank you, sir. And
Probably the second meeting in April, whatever date that falls on, so we can be more specific. Yeah, I don't want to hold you up. I mean, if you had financial concerns or constraints with equipment, I mean, we helped out Parma, I didn't, you know, because of that, but I had heard that you were okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Miller?
is there any reason why we're not voting it out of committee at today's meeting and at least sending it to second reading on April the 14th?
Well, like I said, we're being watched, and I hear from all these other consolidated that some think that they're not being treated properly, that so-and-so got it in 1 reading, this one got it, we had to go wait 3. I'm trying to get to that middle ground, which would be 2 readings, unless someone shows me a concern financially or there's a challenge as far as safety and security, we'll move it forward much like we did with Parma. So if there's not a reason to move it quickly out, I would prefer to read it, hold it in committee for another reading. Just because the competition's already started. And people are starting to check their list as if they're being treated fairly or not. It's, believe me, this is not gonna be a pretty year.
And when is the next meeting of this committee?
In 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today.
So that would be at the same day as the council meeting.
Right.
So it would presumably not go to the council meeting that day.
Not that day, but the
And it
next,
would go to the council meeting on the 28th, and if you did 3 readings, it would not be,
we'll do 2. We'll send it to council for, with a recommendation to move it forward.
you're gonna pass it under suspension at the
Yes.
council meeting. Okay, so that gets you the same, it gets you the same endpoint.
Gets us in and out in April.
Okay,
That's my goal, is to get you in and out in April.
Okay.
Which would be what we're doing anyhow, just another 2 weeks, that's all I'm asking. And they're agreeable to that, so I think we're in good shape. Mr. Germana?
I just want to frame this a little bit different, because every time I hear, in all due respect, when you say wasted money, it kind of just, I kind of cringe inside on that, because what we're doing is we're helping cities save lives and save property, and I'm an insurance man. I sell life insurance, hospitalization insurance, buildings. When we consider the amount of money that this county, in all of its different subdivisions, spend on police and fire, and I know, being council president in Parma for 19 years, police and fire were our major expenditures. It's a major expenditure in any city. And we're assisting people getting the police and fire to them faster. So every dollar is well spent. Now, could it have been done more efficiently? Probably. But we're giving aid to all these people wherever they are with whatever PSAP until we come to a final conclusion. And the people are being well served because undoubtedly we're going to be saving lives and property by passing this, whether you're the one of the five or not. And the person that needs an ambulance, he doesn't care. Matter of fact, he doesn't care whose emblem is on the patch, but if his life is saved. And so I think we got to frame it in that context.
And it should be noted, if people want to stay independent, that's their choice. And we're not going to, that's not our position to be put in. Our position is to find 5 as dictated by the state and to direct those dollars to the 5. If you want to stay independent, and there have been people that have already said they're staying independent, that's not our concern. That's not our concern. And I think we're going to get a way better group of dispatchers and a more professional atmosphere. It's already been proved. And that was the initial fight. Nobody wanted to do it because they had their own. And now they're seeing it happen. So that argument went directly out the window. And as we suspected, but it was a 2-year hard nut to crack. Very hard nut to crack. And but we're here and we'll deal with it. I appreciate you waiting one more reading. So if everybody's okay with that, I would hold this in committee for reading in 2 weeks, move it to the full council for under suspension, our last meeting in April. So you'll have that date with the 20. So you will have the date for you.
Mr. Chair, if we move this to the council for second reading and then the next meeting, it would be third reading anyway.
I want to keep it in committee.
Okay.
I don't want to move it out and bring it back. I mean, we could do that. I do that.
Do we need to bring it back? Just make it second reading and then the next council meeting?
The only concern that I have is that Mr. Harrison, where many of these cities are in his bailiwick and district, I'd like to have him here in committee and Mr. Greenspan.
Okay.
It's just only a courtesy for them. It's not gonna really cost us anything. I guarantee in and out in April, and we'll be able to hold to that. I think that's important for your planning going forward.
Yes, sir. Thank you, appreciate it, and thank you, members of
Okay,
council.
thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Council.
And we have miscellaneous business? Anything miscellaneous? No, anybody? Other public comment?
No, Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
So you're projected, Mr. Chair, next committee would be
2 weeks
the
from
same
today.
night as council.
Correct.
Next council meeting.
Right. And we'll move it out to the last meeting in April, and will be finalized. I don't see any concern or trepidation on the parts of the committee members. We're adjourned. Thank you.